So I'm changing a radiator on a 2013 Dodge Charger. This radiator is also in the Challenger and the Chrysler 300. Same radiator, so all the steps are going to be pretty much the same, just the front end looks different. So 2013 Dodge Charger. I came out the other day, found a puddle underneath the right front bumper. So I opened the hood to investigate. Found my coolant reservoir pretty much almost empty. So had to find where the leak was coming from. There's these plastic panels that go on top here. You can just pull them. They just pull right up out of these little inserts, and right there's got fluid coming out of the radiator fins. Pulled all the plastic shrouds off the bottom. Could see it was leaking from up there. Alright, so when I drained mine, I just pulled the hoses off and made a big mess. The proper way to actually do it was right here on the bottom. This is the passenger side, front, well, rear side of the radiator. You just turn this out, and there's a hose coming off of here, and you'll see it sticks out the bottom. You just put your catch drain underneath that and drain it that way, and you won't make such a big mess. I was in a hurry and didn't really worry about that. Now, so we got a mount here and a mount there. That's for the fan, which I already took out. Now I just have to pull bolt here, down here, and right here. That's what I got to pull now to get the I think there's a condenser out, and you access that behind the grill. You can see this gap right down through here. I'm going to reach up through there from down below and get those three bolts out of there and separate the two, and the radiator should come out after that. So I disconnected the air box hose just to make a little room. It's hard to see here. Just disconnected the electrical connector for the fan right here, got it out of the way, and then just took that clamp off and removed that hose, the upper hose, off of the radiator, and some fluids running out. I took the cap off first to make sure there was no pressure on it. There's probably, I imagine, a drain on the bottom of the radiator. You can crack the drain open and drain the radiator out, but I don't have a manual on me. I'm just kind of tearing into it, so I'll be able to look for that drain to get the rest of it out, but I just put a container underneath it and letting it drain out. Next, remove a bolt out of right here on both sides of the fan, and the fan will pull up out. Just 2 bolts on top and a connector. When removing the air intake, you got a clamp up here, and you'll have a rubber grommet here. Actually, you can just pull it up off, or you can unscrew it. It also unscrews. Took the top radiator hose off already by putting pliers and squeezing that clamp together. Slide it back and that hose will come off. I still have the lower hose down there. I'm pulling the fan up out now. So you can see there's a bolt up top there and a bolt over there. in your connector. The bottom just has hooks. So for right now, I'm seeing this as a mount bolt for the top of the rad and this for the other side for the top, and then we'll see if it just sits down in the bottom or if there's any bolts in the bottom. So this is the bracket that holds the top of the radiator. You can see it sticks up through right here. There's a bolt that goes through. That's the top where my thumb's at, and then down below this cradles the top of the radiator. So I got the bottom clamp off on the lower radiator hose. I slid it back, and now I'm gonna pop that hose off. Try to control this mess. I'm holding the hose up against it because if I don't, it's going to come out everywhere. Stop that for a second because I'm making a huge mess. Alright, so when you're up under the car here, this is the front side. Just pull this out of the way and you'll see right here. Let me see if there's a bolt right there. There's one there, and then on this side you pull this out of the way, it'll slide over pretty easy. It's got a fastener on the bottom you gotta pull out, and then it slides over. There's two bolts on the side behind that, and then your radiator will separate and it'll come out. Alright, so on the other side, you can see here's the front. It's just got this little clip right here you just pull up out, move it to the side. You got a bolt right here. They're 8mm, and there's one, let's see if we can see it up there. If you can see it, there's one up top. Two 8mm bolts, one on that side, and radiator will come out. There's a fourth bolt on the top. So the fourth bolt you need to take out is, so it's hard to see, right in between those lines there's one more bolt. So there's 4 bolts you got to take out to separate the radiator and the condenser. Alright, so I got the 4th bolt out right over here, and it should be free to come out now. Yeah, I think the airbox is gonna have to come out. one bolt on the front of the air box right up top, 8mm, and it pulls up out. Pretty simple. Now let's see if we can get this out easier. And there's the old radiator. The air box has one 8mm bolt right here, and then it just sits down on that. Here's the reason I'm changing the radiator. It was leaking out of these cooling fins right in here. So now I gotta swap this drain hose over to the new radiator, and these seals have to go on the new radiator. They just have little hooks, and you just unhook them basically like this. And then they come off and you put them on the new one. Alright, so installing this radiator, first off I'd like to say, if you don't have a fan in your garage on a hot day in the summer, that thing makes things so much nicer. But get the radiator in place, put it down in, you'll see these two bumpers on the bottom. Right here, that's the bottom of the radiator. Route your drain tube down through that hole in front of it. Over here, same thing. Put your bumper in the hole so you know that the radiator is in place. So you put the bottom in first. You can kind of see the seal right there hangs down. And then push it up against the condenser. Then put your 4 bolts back in. You put the 3 in from the front, and then the 4th one, I have the ratchet on it right now. The 4th one is right there. It goes in from the side in between those 2 lines. But yeah, the other one, you can kind of access it from the top. Let's see. It is right there. There's one right there on top, and then there's one on the bottom. The 2 on the bottom are easy to reach, easy to see. Eight millimeters. There's one right there above that line, and one right there. So put your 4 bolts in, and the radiator's installed against the condenser again, and then we can start putting everything else back together. Next, remove your shipping cap. Cap's removed, and then go ahead and put your lower radiator hose back on and install the clamp. Next step is putting the fan back on. There's a bolt up top on that side, a bolt up top on that side, and the bottom just sitting some hooks on a radiator. So drop it down in. Until it gets on the Alright, so it's in place now. It's on these 2 hooks down below. I'm going to run these 2 8mm bolts in and then hook up the wire connector. And the radiator's back in. I got to put the one more upper radiator hose on. I was just waiting to get this in before I put the upper hose on, so it wasn't in my way. And then for the wire connectors, pretty simple for the fan. Line up the grooves and push it all the way until you hear it click, and now your fan's reconnected. Both bolts are tight and we're ready to go there. Now I just have to put the 2 upper supports on for the radiator. upper supports, they get, you can see right there's like a little bracket that these things straddle. They go down on top. And then you gotta watch, because there are plastic routes around this too. I'll show you here in a second. It's hard for me to do it. I need both hands. So I just pulled the plastic back out of the way. You can see the bracket is straddling the bracket on the radiator. These are 10mm bolts, and they secure right here to the vehicle. Sorry, right there. And then that keeps the top end of the radiator in place. And the other side, same thing. Tighten those down. And then these just have these stupid plastic retainers. They go right in here into the car and holds that plastic shroud in place. If you destroy these things, they sell them at Advanced or AutoZone or whatever. They're pretty cheap. So I'm going to go ahead and tighten these down, and then I'm going to reconnect the upper radiator hose and start putting everything back together, and be ready to put the fluid in. And next I'm going to install the upper radiator hose. Go ahead and remove your shipping cap and slide the upper hose on. Make sure it's seated all the way into the stop, and then put your clamp on. Next, I'm going to put the air box, filter box back on. That's the intake down below, and this sits down on. So the air filter box, it sits down on that intake down below. Make sure when you push it on, you fill its seat. And then up top, it's just got this 8mm bolt. It's gonna go down through this bracket and mounts right here. And that's all that holds that on. So go ahead and install that. Next thing you wanna do is put these plastic shrouds back and cover up the top of this. Very simple, they just push down in. The only real thing you gotta watch for is the left side. The left side looking at it. The passenger side goes on first, because you can see they actually overlap. So make sure you put the passenger side on first. And it just pushes down in. And then put the driver's side on. They just clip down in these. They have these clips like this, and they go in here. Just push them in. Alright, so I'm about to put the intake manifold back on, and before I do that, I just wanted to point out, this is like the dumbest thing ever, but here's your transmission. This is how you check your transmission fluid right here. You just twist this cap counterclockwise, take it out, and you have to buy a dipstick for like $20. Some are even more than that, and check your transmission fluid that way, which I think is a complete ridiculous that they don't give you a dipstick like most other vehicles. But that's Dodge for you. Try to get some more money out of you, sell you the dipstick so you can check your fluid. But I just wanted to point that out. And next we're going to put on the intake manifold. Just basically has a clamp here, and it has a stud that screws on right here that holds it down. So once you install it on the throttle body, go ahead and tighten this clamp up. There's a wire connector that goes right up underneath here. Connect that. This is that stud down here. It screws out, or you can slide it out. I actually tore the top, the rubber cap off of that, getting it out, and then connect to your air box and tighten this clamp. So it's time to fill the reservoir for the radiator back up with coolant. I'm just using this Super Tech from Walmart. They didn't have the Mopar brand. This is good with any antifreeze. And this is concentrate, so you have to mix it 50-50. So one of these to another gallon of distilled water. And this is pre-mix. It's already a 50-50 mix, which I got the top off. I had this already. And you want to use distilled water just so you don't put stuff that's in your regular tap water into your radiator and make it break down faster. But for the 3.6 liter, and I'll put it at the end of the video, it holds 10 quarts of coolant. So it's 2.5 gallons, 10 quarts. So I'm going to go ahead and add the fluid now, and then I'm going to run it and check for leaks. And I put the cover back on after I changed the oil, and this just pushes on, so the cover's back on. All I got to do is put the plastic air dam underneath back on, a couple bolts and those plastic fasteners, and ready to go.